But
Right.
really being able to have that conversation and having the confidence within yourself to be like, no, I actually, for the sake of myself and the sake, especially in a healthcare environment, of my patients,
Mhm.
I need to be able to set boundaries that protect my time, my energy. If something's going wrong, and I'm watching it, I have to be able to stand up and speak up and say, whoa, we got a problem here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Frustrated to Fluent. I'm your host, Devon Bruce. I'm the founder and CEO of the English Communication Academy. We help non native English speakers in healthcare communicate effectively with their patients, colleagues, and staff. And today I'm speaking with Sheryl Green. She's a speaker, author, and recovering people pleaser who learned the power of healthy boundaries after years of putting everyone else first. Now she helps organizations and individuals create cultures where people thrive. And she does this by sharing sharp humor, heartfelt stories, and practical tools for better relationships and stronger leadership. She holds a master's in forensic psychology and is the best-selling author of 6 books, including You Had Me at No. So, Sheryl, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk to you today because this is something that I know the people that are listening really struggle with this. And we're going to talk about how to set proper boundaries in the workplace. And many people struggle with this for so many reasons. First and foremost, English is not their first language. And so they just don't have the confidence to exert proper boundaries. And then when you add other things that are more stigmatized, like cultural differences and things like that, people just really don't exert their boundaries. And so it keeps them stuck, sometimes indefinitely, in their careers. We all lose benefit of that because the people that we work with are brilliant, but that brilliance does not come through. And this is one of the reasons why. So anyway, I'm really, really excited to talk about this. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so just to get started, now we all know what setting boundaries is, but in your own words, what does setting boundaries actually mean in a professional setting, especially in multicultural or multilingual workplaces?
Yeah. So I think honestly, I don't think everybody does know what setting boundaries is. I
Mm,
know I didn't know for 40 years, what that was. So if you're watching this and you're like, "Oh my goodness, this is the first time I'm hearing this word or I've heard it thrown around, but I have no idea what you're talking about." Like, it's okay. You get to start today. So I like to look at boundaries as the way that we allow people to treat us and by extension our stuff. And when I say stuff, I mean, our material possessions, the people around us, our time, our energy. And boundaries really become these guidelines for how we can protect ourselves. And I think, when you look at it in a professional capacity, we're looking at it in the workplace, it really comes down to what is your role? What are your capabilities? And what is your best way to work with other people?
That's a really clear explanation. And I like that you said that because you're right. There are people who may not know, like they may know, like they may have heard like boundaries, but they don't know how it applies to them, or they don't know specifically what that entails. So yeah, I fully agree with you on that. Now, how can cultural expectations, both from someone's home country or their current workplace, how can that impact the way they set or receive boundaries?
Yeah, when you add in the cultural layer, it's interesting because we have different ways of communicating. We have different ways of interpreting how other people, what other people are saying to us or body language or things like that. And it gets a little bit messy because, say you're in a culture where it is or you're from a culture where it is completely acceptable or it's completely unacceptable to say no. There are cultures out there that that
Mhm.
is just not a thing. That is not allowed. You never say no to a parent. You never say no to an elder, to a boss. However, coming into a culture where no is acceptable and it's actually a way for you to protect yourself, but also to do your best in your job. You kind of have to look at it a little bit differently and say, okay, it's a mindset shift. This was not
Mhm.
okay in his previous culture, but I will not survive myself, not even job wise. Like my mental health will not survive if I don't learn how to say no properly, if I don't learn how to speak up for myself, to communicate my needs, to communicate how I work best and how I can best serve. So I think really understanding where you're coming from and, what beliefs do you have? Thinking about it, like, what was it like being raised in whatever country or whatever culture? And what were the messages that you got around boundaries? And then coming into the new culture, okay, well, now what are you seeing around you? And honestly, this is even different from workplace to workplace. This doesn't have to be an expat, as you mentioned, or someone in a foreign country. Like this changes from one business to the next. One, it may not be okay to say no, and we can talk
Mhm.
about what happens when that's the case. But I think it's really about understanding, where you're coming from, where you are now, and how do you bridge the two and find that comfort within yourself to speak up.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because that reminds me of someone that we recently worked with in the academy. They are from another country and they live here now. They are a specialty kind of doctor, and they were having a lot of issues with not being taken seriously. And she thought that it had a lot to do with her English. She spoke beautiful English. I mean, crystal clear English. Anyways, I'm saying this because we discovered that in her culture, it's considered bad to look at people in the eye. And
Yeah.
so every time she would speak, she would look down. And so her perception in the workplace was that she's very meek and people are not taking her seriously, even though she's brilliant. And so once she discovered that when you don't look people in the eye, that's what's causing the issue. It was hard for her at first because she was feeling like she was letting her culture down or she was denying a part of who she was, which makes all the sense in the world because if you come from a culture where that is deeply ingrained and then you come to another culture and now it's affecting your career, it's a hard shift. And so we worked with her on exactly what you said, saying that, listen, you are here now and you are not denying who you are. Your mental health is taking a hit on this. Your career is taking a hit. So it's not about denying who you are. It's more about adaptability and understanding that looking people in the eye in this context is not looking down on your culture. So yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up because yeah, that you're right. That's where it can get tricky.
It's education and it's just, learning the differences and how you can apply them.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Now, how can non-native English speakers prepare language or phrases in advance so that way when it does happen in the moment, they know how to exert that boundary?
Yeah, so this is a great question. So, first of all, whether you are a native English speaker or not, communicating boundaries is the hardest part of boundaries, right? We can set whatever we want in our heads, but the moment that we actually have to like voice that to another human being, that's terrifying. So, preparation is absolutely the key. And the scary slash really cool thing is we're going to be presented with the same situations over and over and over again in life. The players
Mhm.
are going to change, the details are going to change. However, we're going to see the same scenes play out so we can actually be ready for them. So I think part of that is, having a bank or having a list that you can go to, that you can practice ahead of time. And so it does feel comfortable when it's coming out. And I always suggest having a boundary buddy, whether it's somebody that does share your culture and can empathize with what you're going through, or someone who doesn't and can kind of help you like tailor your speech. I think either one or both has benefits, but
Mhm.
getting those phrases ahead of time, and that can just look like, I need a moment to process that. Can I get back to you? Very simple phrases. I'm currently focused on another priority. Can we revisit this in a week? When it comes to speaking to your boss, I like to say no is not a sign of insubordination. It's an invitation to a conversation.
Ooh, I like that.
Like,
Yes.
no shouldn't shut the flow of a talk down. A no should be a, hey, I actually need to let you know what's on my plate right now. If a supervisor comes to you and says, I need you to take care of, X, Y, and Z, of course, our initial reaction is going to be to say, oh yeah, absolutely. I can do that. And, just kind of pile it on. Meanwhile, we're staying late, we're taking work home, depending on what your job looks like, or you're skipping meals, you're skipping bathroom breaks, and you're just crumbling under the pressure, and that's not sustainable. But what is sustainable is your boss coming to you and saying, hey, I need you to do this, and you going, okay, actually, you know what, my plate's really full right now. Can we talk about what could maybe be delegated to somebody else, or can you help me prioritize what is the most important thing for me to do right now, and can we shift some deadlines? And you'd be surprised. Bosses actually do want to hear that you're human and that you care about your job and that you care about whatever population it is you serve. So I think having those, writing them down, practicing them in the mirror, practicing with a boundary buddy, and being able to just kind of reach in, and it's always okay to buy yourself some time. It's always okay. Just well, not if you're in an emergency medical situation.
Right.
It's not always okay to buy yourself some time. Hold on. For the most part, you can say like, "Hey, I actually let me get back to you. I have to check something. I have to talk to someone. I have to see what's on my plate." Like something like that. That buys you a little bit of time.
That is very actionable advice. Thank you so much because the way that you reframe that is it wasn't rude, and that's actually my next question is that people are so afraid of being rude or difficult or being deemed as uncooperative. And so that's another reason why people are afraid to do it. But the way that you reframed it was very professional, very clear, and that was the perfect way to exert boundaries. And so, moving into my next question, because it's such a perfect segue. Like I said, most people are so terrified, whether they're a non-native English speaker or not. They do not want to be deemed as difficult or uncooperative, especially women. They
Yes.
don't want to be deemed that. So, what advice could you give to someone who fears that setting boundaries will make them seem difficult or uncooperative?
That is always a legitimate fear. It
Mhm.
is an absolute legitimate fear. You are going to come across environments and people and workplace cultures that do not accept that it is not okay, and they don't see you as this is all very true.
Mhm.
And it's not going to happen all the time. There's a small percentage when this does happen. And when it does happen, I would actually invite you to question whether or not that's the place that you want to be. Okay. And I'm not telling anybody, do not quit your job right now. Please. I don't want to be responsible for that.
Yeah.
But it is something to kind of take a look at it and say, like, oh, if I'm being met with this, maybe this isn't the right place. However, usually those fears are unfounded. Usually they're unnecessary. I would say a lot of times, especially if you frame it as, I want to do my best for the company. I want to do my best for my patients, for the organization. And these guidelines, these boundaries are what's going to allow me to show up as my best self and be the best person that you could have possibly hired. When you kind of reframe it and turn it around on them, I'm not going to say no boss, but I very rarely will
Mhm.
you have a boss go like, I don't want you to show up your best.
Right.
That's not really good leadership. But normally they're going to be like, oh, okay, how can we work together? How can we do that? So, having that confidence going in that, especially, you said that one woman, such an amazing, amazing practitioner. So having the confidence of, I know who I am, I know what I can do, I know what I bring to the table. And now we have to work together for me to bring my best self. So real I mean, again, it's mindset. It's coming in, knowing your value, knowing how to communicate, and being
Mhm.
willing. That works, right? I think that
Yes.
works. Um, to have that back and forth conversation and work together.
Yeah, something that I would like to add, this is more geared towards women, but this can be applicable for anyone, is the more that you use it, the less you care. And I am a former people pleaser myself. I had 0 boundaries back in the day, and I had to really learn that boundaries are absolutely essential when it comes to your mental health, your emotional health, your overall happiness. And me, as someone who owns and runs their own company, I have to exert boundaries every single day. So, for example, not too long ago, we're working on a very big project in the academy right now with me and another team member, and we're doing this big launch, and it's very, very exciting. And we're going to need um, I'll just say help. We're going to need some help with this. I was talking with someone that could potentially we could collaborate with, business to business. And this person was like, okay, well, this sounds really great. I need to refer this to the person running the company. The company reached out to me in email, and the way that the email that it was conveyed, it was like they were doing me a favor. And also that, can I say this? They really wanted a lot of free labor from me, and they wanted a lot of free labor from my team. So
Yeah.
we want this, and this because it's going to help you and your business. And then as a former English coach and a former ESL teacher, they tried to pull on the heartstrings of think of the people, all the people you're going to help. And so this is the reason why having boundaries is so awesome because I was able to clock it a mile away. The old version of myself, if I would have gotten that email, I would have jumped on that opportunity. But I was like, absolutely not. What we're not going to do is reframe it in this way. I do not think so. So
Yes.
I sent an email saying, what you're asking are things that we charge for. However, I am willing to do, and then I reframed it and I
Yeah.
said, if this sounds beneficial, I'm open. Of course, I never heard from them again because that's the beauty of boundaries. So
Yes.
I'm saying that because the more you exert your boundaries,
Mhm.
the easier it becomes, and you're going to be able to clock it so much more in advance where it brushes right off of you. So just getting used to it, it makes all the difference.
So I love that you brought that point up. Absolutely love
Thank you.
that. So I like to refer to boundaries as a workout. Like we are lifting
Yeah.
weights, going to the boundary gym, and you don't walk into the gym and pick up a 300-pound barbell. That is not your
Mhm.
first step in the gym, right? You go in, you're
Mhm.
picking up the 10s, the 20s, whatever it is. So when you are learning to set boundaries, there's a good chance if you have problems setting boundaries at work, you also have them in your personal life. Just a
True.
good chance.
Yeah.
A lot of times that'll even show up just in casual social interaction. I always
Mhm.
use the example of you're getting massage and they're using too much pressure. And you'd be amazed at how many people, are
Mhm.
uncomfortable to say, hey, you're hurting me, like, can you just lighten
Mhm.
up a little bit? And that was the first time that I spoke up to a massage therapist. So I was like, oh my goodness. So I'm saying this to say, um, don't start at your boss. Start,
Yeah.
start with the social interactions that have less fallout. Start with the person bagging your groceries. Start with the massage therapist. Start when you're getting your
Mhm.
hair done and you're too close to the heat lamp or whatever it is. That's going to give you that practice and that's going to give you that confidence. Start with friends that are cool and have good boundaries themselves because they're going to be able to help you. And work your way up to your boss. Work your way up to your mom is what I always say. Like,
Yeah.
first boundary you set should not be with your mom. Like it's
Right.
I
So
cannot
true.
stress that enough.
Yeah.
So, but yes, the more you do it, the better you'll get at it.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. Now, finally, so the people that are listening and they feel like they really want to try exerting some boundaries, what's one mindset shift that every non-native English speaker could make about boundaries starting today?
Yeah. So one, I would say go back to that realization that even the people who are native English speakers, like it's scary. It's scary for us too. So, and I'm
Hmm.
not trying to take away anything. I'm actually trying to empower you.
Yeah.
Because yeah, we're all feeling that and that's okay. And it's not about having perfect English. It's not about having the perfect accent or anything like that. It's about being able to communicate it properly. And if that's said
Yeah.
with an accent, good for you, you know? But
Right.
really being able to have that conversation and having the confidence within yourself to be like, no, I actually, for the sake of myself and the sake, especially in a healthcare environment, of my patients,
Hmm.
I need to be able to set boundaries that protect my time, my energy. If something's going wrong, and I'm watching it, I have to be able to stand up and speak up and say, "Whoa, we got a problem here." That's not the time to go like, "Oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to say it properly." So maybe, someone's life
Yeah.
is on the line there. Boundaries aren't just a right that we have. I think they're a responsibility. So I've given you like six different things. So sorry, that was a
Yeah.
very long answer. But boundaries aren't a language issue. They're not. They're a skill that we all need to develop, and it's okay to be a little scared in the beginning, and it's okay to start small, and you're gonna get there.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Oh, thank you so much. So Cheryl, where can people find you online?
Yeah, so, LinkedIn or my website is really, the hub of everything, and you can find information on my book and speaking, my coaching program, and everything on there. It's CherylGreenSpeaks.com. So Cheryl with an S, Green at speaks.com.
Awesome. Thank you. And those links are in the description box below. And if you are a non native English speaker in healthcare and you really need some help, or if you're the system that needs help, so if you're the director, the CEO, or the founder, and you're having issues with your team, please reach out to us. We do have a free academy that's accessible for anyone in healthcare. You can join us, and the link for that is in the description box below as well. So, Cheryl, thank you so much for coming on. This was a much, much, much needed conversation today. Thank you. Thank you. All right. And thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Take care.